All right, for this lesson plan, we're going to try something different. We've used structured peer review, we've used unstructured peer review, and this time we're going to do self-assessment. So for your lesson plan, you will do a self-assessment. If you do your lesson plan on Word, then you can insert and then comment to provide the answers to the self-assessment. And in Google Docs, you can insert comments as well. So I want you right now to get out your lesson plan, have it beside you, and do this as you go along. So you can hit pause in the video and then do the step, and then hit play to hear the next step, and then hit pause to do it, okay? All right, so what model did you use? Is this project-based learning, problem-based learning, project-based inquiry, inquiry-based learning? Did you use the 5E model or the C3 model? Is this a web quest? Or did you do your own research and find a different set? I know some of you already are using an inquiry structure. I want you to insert a comment and tell me explicitly which one you used. Now, for the next part, I want you to insert a comment and put 1, or just number it with a big number 1 beside the part of the lesson plan where you have your students confront the problem, how you introduce them to them conceptually, so that there is, maybe you are showing them the problem in their community or at the school or globally, whatever it is. Maybe in English class you do a common reading, you've just read a novel and you talk about one of the major themes of the novel, what you're doing to launch the inquiry that is motivating for students. So how are you helping them connect to this conceptually? And if you don't know what I mean, go back to that first article we read by Kathy Short and look again at how she talks about connecting conceptually to the students. Also think back to the beginning of the semester when we talked about explicit instruction, and make sure that there is a place in your lesson plan where you are explaining the process and procedures. So hit pause on this right now and put a big number 1 by where you are launching the problem or the conceptual connection for your students, and place a big number 1 where you are doing explicit instruction of the process for your students. All right, now number 2. Organizing the students for inquiry. So where you are giving them the logistical requirements, where you are establishing the group work and the expectations for the groups, as well as expectations for the students. So put a big number 2 beside where your organization is and provide a rationale for that. So if you're having them work independently, why are you doing that? If you're having them working in groups, please put your rationale of how you group them. So they can be mixed ability grouping, or they can be differentiated groups by interest or differentiated groups by readiness. And put a big number 2 beside that. All right, 3. This is where the students are actually doing the inquiry. So in different disciplines, it's going to look different. In English, they're going to be reading and doing internet research and library research. In science, they may be doing observations or experiments, or they might be doing library research. That works too. In history, they might be doing interviews or looking at photographs, or whatever they're doing to get the content of the discipline, and they are doing this on their own. So they're responsible for the cognitive load of getting the content, that deep disciplinary content. Put a big number 3 beside this. And I should have said earlier, if you can't find the place in your lesson plan where the students are actually doing the searching, the gathering of the content, the data that they're going to analyze, then you need to add it. And same for number 1 and number 2. If you can't find it in there, then add it. All right, this is where students are going to need a lot of scaffolding. So how are you going to scaffold this for your students? Put a big number 4 where you are having some planned assistance, some planned scaffolds in place, some planned differentiated instruction for students to help them formulate their explanation. That might look like a lab report. The product might look like an infographic or a research paper or a video. And then also put a big number 4 beside your plan for public sharing or display. So how are they going to publish, share, and act? It's better if they do this outside of their classroom, but it's okay if you're just having them do it inside the classroom with a gallery walk or presentations. So you need 2 number 4s. One number 4 beside your scaffolding of helping them make that product, and then a big number 4 beside how you're having them share their product with others. And then number 5, how are you going to assess this? You are probably either going to have criteria or you are going to have a rubric. Please include that and put a number 5 beside it. But then also, if students worked by themselves, you need to have them reflecting on their own learning. So put a number 5 where students are reflecting on their own learning. Think about that productive group work book we read, allowing time for group processing on their strengths about teamwork. Put a big number 5 beside that. And maybe as a whole class, you have some debriefing time. Put a 5 beside that. So if there's nowhere in your lesson plan where you could put a number 5, then you need to add that. And then also just to double check, if you wrote an objective, then it must have an assessment. If it's not assessed, then it's not an objective for this lesson. So make sure that your rubric, if you have a rubric, or your criteria, or however you are doing the assessment, matches the objectives that you wrote. All right, so in addition to those, also make sure that you include a standard that shows that this inquiry unit is connected to the standard course of study for your grade level and subject. So you'll have a standard, you'll have objectives, you'll have the process, and that will make a great entire lesson. And when I say lesson in this inquiry could take 90 minutes or it could take several days, and that's fine. I'd like to know the name of the class, the subject, the grade level, and the duration. How many days and how many minutes are those days that you're planning on working on this? Thanks.